In this video, we're going to take a look at the FERS survivor annuity and some of the options you have with that survivor and benefit. First, what is a survivor annuity? Survivor annuity is the monthly benefit paid to the survivor of an employee or a retiree who dies. It is always payable immediately following the employee or retiree's death and provides continued income for the life of that survivor, including COLA increases over time. It also allows for continued coverage under FEHB for health insurance. First thing we're going to look at is employees, and we'll get to retirees in a minute. But the first part, for employees, there's three main survivor benefits. The first is the basic employee death benefit. The second is a survivor annuity for eligible spouses and children. And the third, if there are no eligible spouses and children, it's a lump sum payment of your retirement contributions back to your estate. The first item, the basic employee death benefit. That is paid only to an eligible spouse. In order to be paid that, the employee needs to have been employed for at least 18 months, and that benefit is $31,786.21 plus half of your final salary or half of your high 3 salary if that's higher. That $31,786 amount goes up with inflation each year, and that benefit in total can only be paid to that eligible spouse. If an employee, as an example, had $50,000 of salary, half of that would be $25,000, so the net payable benefit would be $56,786. That can be paid in a lump sum or 36 installments and maybe transferred to an IRA. The key part there is that it is a taxable benefit, so transferring to an IRA may provide a little tax relief in the year that it was paid. The second portion for an employee is the survivor annuities. This is the monthly benefit we were talking about earlier. In that instance, that employee must have been employed for at least 10 years and died while subject to those FERS reductions. This terminates for that spouse if they remarried before age 55, and the children's survivor annuities are paid automatically, so there's nothing you need to do for the spouse or the children to be covered under the deceased employee annuities. Now we're going to focus on the bigger issue, which is the retiree survivor annuities and some of those options. That retiree survivor annuity can go to current spouses, former spouses, eligible children, and an insurable interest if selected. The first thing we're going to talk about is court orders between former spouses and particularly current spouses. The Spouse Equity Act of 1985 provided that OPM had to honor valid state court orders for portions of annuities, providing survivor benefits, or providing insurance for ex-spouses. That takes effect for any divorce after May 7th of 1985. When those court orders awarded a former spouse the entire survivor annuity, a current spouse could not get any of that survivor annuity. If a former spouse only had a partial survivor annuity, then the current spouse would have the option to take the rest. And if a former spouse for some reason lost entitlement to that survivor annuity, a current spouse would then be able to take the entire benefit. Now we're going to talk about some definitions. A current spouse is someone who has been married to the employee for at least 9 months. The only exceptions being is if there was a child born of the marriage or if the death was accidental. For a former spouse, the same 9-month requirement applies. Again, you're no longer married to the employee, and the survivor annuity would have to have been ordered by a court or also could have been elected by the retiree themselves. Now, those elections at retirement, there are 3 options for FERS employees. A full maximum survivor benefit provides 50% to the survivor. A partial survivor benefit provides 25% of that base annuity to your survivor, or you can elect no survivor benefit. Either election other than the full maximum survivor benefit must be signed off on by the current spouse, if there is one. Now we're going to take a look at the cost of those different annuity selection options. The first, a maximum survivor benefit, which provides 50% to the spouse, costs 10% of the annuity. In this example, we're looking at a $30,000 base annuity that costs $3,000 to provide the survivor benefit. So the net to the retiree is $27,000. If they were to pass away, that survivor would then receive $15,000 for the rest of their life. The partial annuity example is very similar. The benefit is 25% of the base annuity. The cost is 5% of the annuity. That cost then is $1,500, providing a reduced annuity of $28,500 to the retiree, and the benefit for that survivor would be $7,500 per year. The duration of these benefits for current and former spouses, they start immediately after the retiree's death, and you need to get information to OPM about that employee passing away immediately. It ends the last day of the month before the month in which the spouse either dies, remarries before age 55, and that's unless the original marriage was over 30 years. If you were married over 30 years before, you can remarry at any time without losing that survivor annuity. And the third option, when it could end, is if it was a former spouse who lost entitlement for some other reason in the court order. If you have any other questions on other survivor benefits, please see some of our other videos. Thank you.